We wrote a paper and then partnered with the University of Edinburgh to build an index called the EDI, the Edinburgh Decentralization Index. And that paper identified, and the EDI identifies 8 different areas that you can look at decentralization. They've been working on it for about 2 years, and they've started measurements. And so if you go to the website of the Edinburgh Decentralization Index, you can actually see real time some of the measurements of Bitcoin and Ethereum and Cardano. So I think with the Chang hard fork, what this is going to do is set Cardano on a path within the next 6 to 12 months to become the most decentralized cryptocurrency project ever, including Bitcoin.
Charles Hoskinson, co-founder of blockchain engineering company Input Output Global and the Cardano blockchain platform, has big dreams for the network and ADA, the platform's native cryptocurrency. According to Hoskinson, Cardano could become the voting system of every nation globally, making it bigger than the Bitcoin network. This is not Hoskinson's first prediction of a massive upgrade for the proof-of-stake blockchain network. While speaking at the 2023 EVO conference, the 36-year-old American entrepreneur said that ADA was poised to surpass Bitcoin as the world's leading cryptocurrency by market cap. In a recent discussion with altcoin daily hosts Aaron and Austin Arnold, he repeated similar sentiments, noting that Bitcoin has stalled, making it easier for Cardano to flip it. During the interview, the American entrepreneur described Bitcoin as a stagnant network with limited utility, adding that the network's only value proposition is that it is big and successful. Hoskinson also compared Bitcoin to platforms like Yahoo, MySpace, and Microsoft Windows, suggesting that they failed due to their rigidity and failure to adapt to changing technological innovations. Charles envisions the same happening to Bitcoin in the coming years. In addition to its native cryptocurrency somehow becoming the world's largest cryptocurrency by market cap, Hoskinson predicts that the Cardano network will soon become the world's most decentralized blockchain network. He stresses that, unlike Bitcoin, Cardano's innovative design allows it to adopt new technologies and grow. During another recent discussion with Tony Edwards of the Thinking Crypto YouTube channel, Hoskinson outlines huge goals for a new era that he stresses will see the Cardano blockchain network outgrow the entire crypto industry to become a multi-trillion-dollar ecosystem. As we bring you clips from the highly insightful discussion, please take a little time to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. Thanks for the support, and enjoy the video.
So we're working in parallel on the last 2 parts of the Cardano roadmap. There's Basho and Voltaire. You need Voltaire for certain parts of Basho. So Voltaire is all about governance. And there was always this idea of creating the largest, most representative on-chain government in the entire cryptocurrency space. And we spent 2 years as an ecosystem having those discussions. So we wrote first a SIP 1694, named after the birthday of Voltaire, the poet. And we then socialized that throughout the entire community. There was more than 25 workshops all across the world, and it took over a year and a half of dialogue to get to a final design. And now we're in, as an ecosystem, the last stages of implementation of the test net for these governance tools, and then it's called SanchoNet. So Node 9.0, which is going to come out probably next week, is basically the fork-ready candidate. So how it works in Cardano land is that once all the discussions have been had, the SIP process has been followed, which takes quite a bit of time and a lot of hands touch it from many different institutions. The stake pool operators have to be that final line in deciding whether to conduct a hard fork or not. So we need 70% of them to install, and then the hard fork will get initiated. So we're almost there. Usually it takes about a month for that to occur, but this is a very significant hard fork because not only does it add a completely new governance system, so reps and a constitutional committee and constitutional guardrails and representation and these types of things, it also actually adds a bunch of enhancements to Plutus. So Plutus v3, which allows for BLS support. So that basically brings rollups and zero knowledge stuff and all kinds of really cool scalability things into the Cardano ecosystem. So this is the largest and most significant hard fork ever done. And it's the most meaningful because it basically builds a whole on-chain government. Turns on the Cardano treasury. There's almost $1 billion of value floating around there. and it basically turns on democratic consent and constitutional representation. So people will register DREPs just like they register stake pools, and they can delegate to them, and those DREPs can vote. And those DREPs and constitutional committee members basically control all the major governance actions, whether it be hard forks or treasury withdrawals or protocol parameter updates. It's the largest and most significant DAO ever built for our industry. So obviously, this one's being closely watched by many people, and it's really exciting, but it's a little scary because
Sure.
there's no going back. It's like the domino effect. You've pushed the domino, and you just have to watch what happens afterwards. But we're all in good spirits about that. The other major thing is Basho, and there's kind of a multi-pronged scalability approach that we've been taking as an ecosystem. So we have Hydra, which is rapidly approaching version 1, and there's a lot of cool and interesting things that will be demoed at Rare Evo for that. And that's kind of our off-chain state channels play, which is usually very useful on a DApp by DApp basis. Then you also have things like Ouroboros Laos. We just published the paper for that, 6 years in the making. So it took a really long time to get there. But in our view, it solves a big chunk of the blockchain trilemma, where you get pretty much the fastest protocol you can get. It's called a 1 minus delta protocol. But you preserve that 50% Byzantine resistance, and actually you have a higher degree of decentralization than we currently do, which is best in class for consensus. So we're very proud of that. And now it's entering the prototyping phase. And then we have things like partner chains, for example, which take very high load applications off the Cardano network and into their own dedicated sidechain that basically can run in parallel with the system. And then, of course, all the enhancements we're making in the zero knowledge space and recursive space, thanks to Plutus V3 and Midnight. So very vibrant. And it's kind of an all of the above's scalability strategy, and a little bit of optimization, a little bit of new capabilities, some of the old things that you've all come to know and expect, like state channels and rollups, and some new things like Ouroboros Laos, which really innovate and bring a completely new way of looking at this stuff to the industry as a whole.
Hoskinson announced Cardano's highly anticipated Chang hard fork in a Twitter post earlier this month, noting that June will most likely be the month the Cardano node reaches its version 9.0. The Chang hard fork is the first of Cardano's Voltaire phase, heralding an era with the promise of complete decentralization for the blockchain network. Hoskinson's post reads, "It looks like June will be the month that Cardano node will reach 9.0. This means that Cardano is Chang fork ready and waiting for 70% of the SPOs to install the new node. Then, a hard fork can occur, pushing Cardano into the age of Voltaire. It's the most significant milestone in the history of Cardano, and for the industry as a whole. Cardano will be a decentralized civilization spanning the entire world with millions of residents. We'll have the most advanced blockchain governance system, annual budgets, a treasury, and the wisdom of our entire community to guide us." In the post that has been viewed over 500,000 times with nearly 7,000 likes, Hoskinson added, "It's been nearly 10 years for some of us on this remarkable journey. I can't believe that in a single decade, we built a nation. I'm proud of all of you. Cardano gives me hope for our industry and the world. Let's spend the next decade making a big dent in the universe." The post received many positive responses from cryptocurrency investors, but there were a few dissenting voices. One Twitter user noted that Cardano's governance, treasury, and budgets make it a centralized civilization, not the perfect decentralized system that Hoskinson is promising. In response, the Cardano founder and former Ethereum co-founder wrote, "Not when they are run by tens of thousands of people from more than 100 countries." During the interview with Edwards, Hoskinson also talked about Input Outputs project with the University of Edinburgh. The Edinburgh Decentralization Index is the industry's first decentralization index. The index aims to create more transparency in the cryptocurrency industry by using a research-based methodology to determine the decentralization level of public blockchain projects. Here are more clips from the interview.
We wrote a paper and then partnered with the University of Edinburgh to build an index called the EDI, the Edinburgh Decentralization Index. And that paper identified, and the EDI identifies 8 different areas that you can look at decentralization. And so you don't look at decentralization just from one lens, but you look at it from everything from who controls the consensus nodes, to how many full nodes do you have inside the system, to who writes the software, to the tokenomics of the system, to particulars behind where security comes from. Is it proof of work or proof of stake based? And so each and every one of these things can either move you towards a state of more centralization or less centralization. It just depends on those facts and circumstances. So the goal of EDI is to come up with a number and basically tell you explicitly what is the aggregate of all those different activities together. Now, they've been working on it for about 2 years, and they've started measurements. And so if you go to the website of the Edinburgh Decentralization Index, you can actually see real time some of the measurements of Bitcoin and Ethereum and Cardano. So I think with the Chang hard fork, what this is going to do is set Cardano on a path within the next 6 to 12 months to become the most decentralized cryptocurrency project ever, including Bitcoin. Now, people have a gut feeling, oh, I disagree with that. Well, I don't care about your feelings. I care about facts and measurements. And, when we say it's the most decentralized as measured by the EDI, you can choose to agree or disagree with the EDI. And if you disagree, it's an open source academic metric by an academic institution. So then participate in versioning. The whole point of the EDI is to be version 1, 2, 3, 4, and each version tries to be more representative of what it attempts to measure, which is decentralization as a whole. So they've already begun pretty extensive conversations with regulators like the FCA, the ADGM over at Abu Dhabi, VARA in Dubai, the U.S. Department of Commerce and others to kind of say, hey, you have this notion of sufficiently decentralized in your statutory viewpoint. Maybe, just maybe, we should begin discussing and measuring it. And actually, the paper for EDI was approved and is going to be submitted, presented at Financial Crypto. So it's already going through the peer review process as well. And there's been some phenomenal feedback, and that's already feeding into the discussion of whether EDI is an effective measurement or not. So my view is you have to start somewhere, and because the industry doesn't already have an accepted index of decentralization, we kind of had to start from 101 and get that index bootstrapped. And now the next step is to apply that index in every dimension. And that is one of the design goals. When you look at protocols like Ouroboros Laos or the on-chain government system, they're not just being built from a position of efficiency and effectiveness or throughput, but they're also looking at, is decentralization preserved and protected? Because that's so sacred for these systems' long-term viability. By the way, we've been reaching out to a lot of blockchain projects on it. Like I just had a conversation with the Algorand folks and others, and there's a lot of excitement about these indexes existing because they suffer from the same problem that we suffer from, which is how do you actually measure decentralization?
Right.
And then you got to get away from feelings and these cults of personality and really get to the facts of the matter. And can we establish a baseline? And once we have that baseline, how do we then apply it and at least measure the top 30, 40, 50 projects in the ecosystem? And then you have a starting point. And then you go talk to policymakers and lawmakers and you say, look, this is our view as an industry of what we think sufficiently decentralized means. Do you have a differing view? And if so, why? What are you worried about? Is it disclosures? Is it information asymmetries? Is it unpredictable failings or cascading failures like we saw in 2008 because of over-centralization or a lack of transparency? These types of things. And so they're obviously going to have a view on that. And our goal is to address that view and get that into the index as well. And then the hope is over time that this becomes a steering tool for project management, roadmap development, and ultimately regulatory compliance.
Cardano's Voltaire is a much anticipated milestone for the crypto network that has been widely criticized for its snail-paced approach to issues. In this era, the blockchain will no longer be controlled by input-output global, but by members of the ADA community. Hoskinson says this will allow Cardano to become the most decentralized blockchain network, more decentralized than Bitcoin, which will immediately and immensely boost the network's value and ADA's price. Do you think Cardano is about to enter a new era that will propel it from a stagnant network to the world's most decentralized crypto network and the largest crypto asset by market cap? Please share your comments and observations on Hoskinson's interview in the comments section below. Also, ensure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notifications bell for more videos like this. Thanks for watching.